Okay, front end's out. There's a bolt that goes through right here. It's a 21 millimeter, and you can drop that and let it rest on the frame. And then here, there's an 18 mil. What I do is I take a long 1/2-inch drive extension and feed it through the front with an 18 millimeter, and I suck this nut right out of there, or that bolt right out of there. And then on this side, I switch over to a stubby 18 millimeter on my little impact. I pull this out, and then I drop this corner down first and slide it on out of there, and then it comes out as one piece. Put two hands on it. You really don't need to, but it's better if you have two guys. And then how I got this out of here is I pull all the 10 mils all the way around, and then I just tapped on the bottom and it came loose. And there's my front end. So now I'm going to clear off my workbench here, and I'm going to slap this up there, go ahead and start draining everything and get it apart. Okay, 13 millimeter bolts all the way around. Took them off and laid them to the side. Went right here, took apart the front cover. It's really shiny. It's got some haze to it. It's kind of silverish, like maybe the beginning of bearing failure. That's why the noise is so faint coming from this pinion. So I'm just going to rebuild everything. I've got a whole parts box full of stuff here. I've got the new ultra gray silicone. I've got like the bearing races and stuff. I'll lay all that out here in a second, but for right now, I'm gonna start ripping this apart. You know, I'm gonna start. If you're this far, you don't need me to tell you how to do this. So that's what I'm gonna do now. Start ripping this all apart. So here's what I did. It's a snap ring that goes through here. Snap ring on the side of this shaft. So basically I just I pulled the seal off this end, and then I took all the bolts out all the way around, which are a series of 15 millimeter bolts. And then once I got those out, I just tapped on the flange until it slowly worked its way out, and it just popped right out of there as a snap ring. So that's how I got that out. And now I'm going to bust this down and pull the carrier out. It's got a little groove in it. Not too bad though. This one's got more distinct marks in it. Basically, we had to pry the living hell out of this thing to get out of there. We stuck a wrench on one of the bolts and let it go over across the back of the case, and then pried up on the front and walked it out. But once you get the caps off, you literally got to pry the living hell out of it while somebody tries to hold it and walk it out. Finally it came out. 27 millimeter pinion nut, and then 3-jaw puller to pull the yoke off. So basically I just gutted the case. I went through the inside and popped the race and everything out of here. It's going to be tricky because you're going to have to grab it on the edge of the race and pop it out. So I went from the inside out, popped everything out the back, and then I went from this way down and grabbed like right in these channels on the side. Just took this long drift and punched out the oil baffle and everything from the top. Took everything out. You see it's gutted. There's nothing left inside here. This oil baffle has to be replaced. I destroyed that. You can see where I hit my punch here and here and drove the whole race assembly and everything out. So now I'm going to take and go wash up everything that can be reused and pull my side carrier bearings and stuff off. There's a special tool you use for all that. So I went and pressed the pinion bearing and reused the old shim for it. It's reusable. So I mean, the new pinion bearing is on now, and now I'm actually going to go press the new carrier bearings on. The new carrier bearings are XW4Z 4221AA, and the cones races are D9AZ 4222A. The next thing you do is there's an oil baffle that goes in here. It has to go in before you set that bigger pinion race in. So now that's what I'm going to do, is use the old race and this big block of steel right here, and I'm going to drive that in with a dead blow. So this is how I install it. I take the old seal, or the old race, and a dead blow. Okay, I got the outside pinion race knocked in real nice, all the way flush with the backstop here. Now I'm going to set the pinion in. Okay, so far I have the pinion through it with the pinion bearing pressed on, and then it goes through the oil slinger, or the oil baffle, and then you drop your crush sleeve in between the two bearings. So you'll start the pinion in, you'll drop the crush sleeve through, you put the outer pinion in, or you can just put everything together, put the crush sleeve in last after you put the outer pinion out here in, slide everything through. You're going to have to tap the outside of this a little bit to get the thread started over the pinion, and once you get enough to, you can start to tighten it down. And then there is, you got to have 16 to 29 inch-pounds of turning torque. So when installing the drive pinion flange and pinion nut with no differential carrier installed, the drag torque should be 16 to 29 inch-pounds. Well, I have no carrier in there yet, and I'm about to tighten this nut down until I get between 16 and 29 inch-pounds, and that would require the old school mechanical inch-pound torque wrench. Let's see where I'm at right now. So not quite there. We're at 9. We're at about 9 to 10 inch-pounds. So still not tight enough. I'll go ahead and give it a couple more ugga-duggas and check it again. Okay, let's see what I'm at now. Maybe one more and I'll be done. Okay, so let's see where we're at, what we're pulling. So it looks like about 21. I'm gonna call that good. Oil everything back up, flip it over, and set my carrier and stuff in. Alright, carrier's in, spacers are back on the side. Everything's moving real free, just like it has to. It has the right amount of drag to it, so that's good. Now I'm going to finish cleaning everything and bolting everything back up. Get the caps back on the same way that they came off. You really need to make sure that you take them off and put them back on in the same exact spot, in the same location of, in the same direction. So that's why I love videoing, so I can always go back and reference. So my caps are torqued down to 77 foot-pounds like they're supposed to be. Everything's turning real nice, like just like it's supposed to. The next thing would be, basically cleaning the surface back up one more time. putting the rear cover on, letting it set and cure, and then getting everything and putting it all back together. Just start putting everything back together now. This is set, it's finished. Put everything back together now. Okay, cover's on, bolts are all torqued down, and now I'm gonna go ahead and start putting my sleeve and my axle sleeve and everything on this side. Put my stub and everything back in. Okay, it's built. I'm gonna stab it all tomorrow, get it put back in. Let me talk to you a little bit about what I have going on here. After I left you with the last segment, I told you I was gonna put the rear cover on. I went ahead and obviously put this little half shaft housing stub shaft area here. You got to put the housing on first. The gray silicone all the way around. 15mm bolts hold this in, and then obviously new seals on each end. I put new seals on the input side for both of them, or I should say output side actually. The input's actually coming from the drive shaft. All this checked out good. Turning torque was good. Everything was good. Again, once I left you with putting the back cover on, putting this housing on and bolting it all down, taking this stub shaft, cleaning up the area where it rides right inside here in the seal, putting that all back in. And then these are the tools that I used for the job. I have an inch-pound torque wrench. I had to use a 3/8 step, quarter to 3/8, 3/8 to half. And then here is a 27mm chrome socket. I know people are going to give me hell for that, but the other one I destroyed. I had to use what I had, and that's it. That's good enough for me to get the job done. I have a Flexzilla 1/2-inch drive stubby impact. I have a few drifts, nice hammer, 13mm socket, 1/2-inch drive, 19mm socket, 1/2-inch drive, 17mm socket. That is for my 3-jaw puller, and you use the 3-jaw puller to get the yoke out off. I have a chisel here, 19mm wrench, 18mm wrench, a big 1/2-inch drive impact. When I'm going to set my actual torque on this, I need something beefy. I use my 1/4-inch drive Milwaukee stubby impact when I'm just putting things together, and that's it. Couple pry bars, one medium size, one small. This is a white Rolock disc from 3M that's very, very fine, and it doesn't really cut into metal, but it does destroy the material that's on it, like silicones and stuff. So I use all that to clean, or to basically take all the old gasket material and stuff off the housing, and then I take it down there to the machine and clean it out. Steams everything. 15mm ratcheting wrench, blowgun, basic stuff. Only thing that would be out of the ordinary if you don't have a 3-jaw puller, medium size one. I think this is a 6-inch 3-jaw puller. This is a 1/4-inch drive inch-pound wrench because you need your spec. I think it was like 16 to 29 inch-pounds was the window, so I put it right at about 21. And then if you've seen earlier in the video, there's actually a bearing puller kit that you can find on Amazon, and if I remember, I'll look it up for you, but look for a bearing puller kit with the 2 sliding pieces like I showed you, and that you could do this job. I mean, this job is not hard. It's time consuming. Some people don't like doing this type of work. When you go to set your carrier in this housing, I forgot to say that earlier, you're gonna play hell putting those shims back on the side and then getting the carrier to sit inside the cups and drop down inside. Sometimes you actually have to take a hammer and just real lightly with like a rubber mallet or something, just real lightly tap on the sides to get it to sit down in with those old shims. A lot of guys won't go back and reuse those old shims because they think the factory ones are too tight, and that's what's causing the problem to begin with. I'm getting paid to do this like a factory job, so I don't have the opportunity to do that because warranty's paying for this. If it would have been the customer, I would have asked them if I could go a size down, and that's those little flat shim pieces that go on the carrier bearing cups. That's how Ford builds them. That's how they want them put back together. Right now, everything is functioning real good. I've got a real nice turning, just like it's supposed to be. It's not overpowering or anything like that, so I'm going to let it sit here overnight. I'm going to let the silicone and stuff cure, and then I'm going to put it back in the vehicle. It'll probably take me about an hour and a half in the morning. I'll have the front end and everything all put back together in there, and have the customer's truck back. And the fluid you use is a 75-140. Doesn't have to be synthetic, but this is what I use. The Ford stuff is good. So this is what I put in the front end and the rear end. But yeah, that's it, guys. That is the front end built.